He turned away, and Amy saw the stitched initials on his duffel. J.E.T. She remembered the text that Nellie had sent about Sinead. Not much to go on, Nellie had written, but this. Sinead heard P.O. say that the jet has taken off from Chicago with the package. Jeffrey E. Tagemeyer. J.E.T. Her legs kept moving, following him up the metal staircase. She slipped her phone out of her pocket and tugged off one glove with her teeth. No reception. Jeff opened the door and let them pass through. It slammed shut. The solid thud of the door sounded ominous. They were in an open space, divided into living and dining areas. A long table was pushed against a wall, the chairs upended over the table. Desks were over by a rolled-up rug. Bookshelves crammed with books and DVDs lined a wall, but there were no electronics. One corner held a bright purple sofa with multicolored pillows. I didn't expect it to look so homey, Dan said. He was looking around with what seemed to be genuine interest, but Amy knew he was just as spooked as she was. The thing about Antarctica was that you felt you had been flung off the Earth into some strange galaxy. Help seemed a million miles away. She sneaked a glance at her phone. They'd already spent an hour searching the ship and motoring here. 1 hour to go. Sure, the scientists are here from October to March. This is actually a new station, a prototype that they're leaving here for the winter. There are no winter stations on this island. The generator has been drained of fuel. Solar panels disconnected. Everything's been shut down. Feel how cold it is? Hamilton let out a breath of steam. Icy. What do the stilts do? Amy asked. She was stalling, looking around, wondering why Dr. Jeff was here. She knew it wasn't for Krill. The stilts are adjustable, according to weather conditions, so they left it high for possible snowfall, Dr. Jeff said. Take a look at the bulletin board. It's got some cool stuff on it. I just need to grab my research. They get up to some pretty fun stuff here. Horror movie nights, costume nights, popsicle contests, you name it. With wary eyes on Dr. Jeff, they went to the wall and scanned the photos. Why Zimmer named that ship the Titanic, I don't know. It's cursed. Not that I want to stomp on his dreams. Everybody has crazy dreams, right? Mine is to get out of Krill and into something that actually pays. You know what that is? Energy. You know who can help me do that? He opened the door, and the icy wind and snow swept in. He grinned. The outcast. You should be able to see the boom from here. They sprinted for the door, but it slammed shut in their faces. They heard the locks engage. Hamilton yanked, but it didn't give. That, he said, was a serious miscalculation on our part. They ran to the window. Amy heard the noise of a propeller. High in the gray sky, a helicopter was banking. They kept their eyes on it as it circled, looking for a place to land. It finally settled onto some shale. The pilot stayed on board. It took a few minutes, but soon Dr. Jeff came from the direction of the beach, hurrying toward the copter. Amy beat on the windows, even though she knew it was useless. In just minutes, Dr. Jeff had climbed in the copter and flown away. The snow was now a whirling mass of white. It had taken no time at all for the three of them to feel extremely cold. Jumping jacks helped, but they couldn't keep it up forever. Well, Dan thought, maybe Ham could. Ian will know we came ashore, Amy declared. He'll find us. Nobody said what they were all thinking. The ship was scheduled to depart. Ian could assume they were still on board. He would be looking for them, even as the ship sailed on, even as the explosion happened. They searched the pod, but it was cleared out of anything they could use as a battering ram against the door. The windows were unbreakable. There were no blankets or survival gear. There was no food. Ham picked up a chair and smacked it against the door. The structure didn't even shake. This place is built to withstand high winds, blizzards, and snow accumulation, Dan said. I don't think it will break even for a Thomas. They gathered couch cushions and piled them in a corner, huddling together for warmth. Dan tried to remember the symptoms of hypothermia. Shivering? Check. Clumsiness? I just dropped binoculars on my foot. Slurred speech? Not yet. But then again, I haven't said anything in 5 minutes. Ham stood and began to run in place. We're going to get out of here, okay? Let's keep our blood moving. There is no such thing as can't in the Holt universe. Amy began to jump up and down, beating her arms against her sides. You two look like nerds, Dan said. Let me join you. He jumped up and down, beating his hands against his legs. His fingers felt cold inside his gloves. Too bad we can't shake this place down to the ground. Wait a minute. Amy stopped jumping. Didn't Jeff say that the stilts are adjustable? Yes, so that they can accommodate snow accumulation, Dan said. Hamilton stopped running. That means hydraulics, right? I guess. Why? Because there will be controls inside the pod. That's why. Hamilton started to roam around the space, searching frantically. Here's a control panel, he called. It's got lift controls for the stilts. It will work without electricity. Gravity is on our side. But what good will that do? Dan asked. We'll just be closer to the ground and still won't be able to get out. Ham glanced around the room. Not if we torque it. What do you mean? If we pile the cushions in a corner and barricade ourselves and do 3 legs at once. Exactly, Amy said, totally in tune with Ham's thinking. We collapse 3 legs in the whole and the whole thing crashes down and torques at the same time. The stress on the corners might snap it. But what about us? Dan asked. It would be like being in an elevator falling 5 stories. Not to mention when it cracks apart like an egg. Do you have a better idea? Amy asked. We've got to get back to that ship. Ready? Ready. Amy and Dan braced themselves behind a wall of cushions. 1, 2, 3. Hamilton pressed the switches on the hydraulic lifts for supports. 1, 2, 3. And then dove into the cushion fortress. As the modular structure began to tilt. Here we go, he yelled. Dan had only a moment to look at his sister's terrified face, and they were falling fast and hard, tilting and sliding. He bounced hard against something and shouted from the impact. The window was suddenly in front of him, and he saw sky and then rushing ground and snow. The crash sent him flying, hands over his head. He heard a horrible wrenching crack. He tumbled again, flying through the air and landing hard, his face in snow. Snow. He was outside. He couldn't breathe. Was he hurt? He didn't know. Gingerly, he rolled onto his back. Pieces of blue wall lay splintered on the snow. The modular base had cracked open and spilled them out. Dan looked for Amy. He saw a spot of red on the snow. It looked like blood. Amy! He screamed, the word torn from his lungs. He fought his way through snow and debris toward her. It was the red parka. She was lying flat, face to the sky. Amy? He tripped and stumbled, and landing on his knees. Amy? Her eyes opened. Sky, she said. We made it. Are you okay? I'm okay. She raised herself, wincing. Hamilton? Woo-hoo! Ride of a lifetime! Hamilton stood on a slight rise, the broken pieces of the station around him. We've got to get... Amy flipped over onto her hands and knees and struggled to her feet. To the ship. We're only a half hour away from the blast. On shaky legs, they ran past the skeleton structures of the whaling station and the rusting tanks. The Zodiacs were still on the shore. They raced toward them, but they were deflated. The knife slashes still evident. Amy felt tears spring to her eyes. Jeff disabled them. We'll never get out of here in time. There's no such thing as can't or never in the whole universe, Ham shouted. Oh, Ham, I know, Amy said, but we can't cruise out here on hope alone. No, dude. Ham took her head gently and turned it. We're going to cruise out of here on Ian's Zodiac.